hope everyone is well. This is Charlie Cooksey with you from Gulf Insider Media. I'm here today at Tamkeen, joined with Mr. Ahmed Janahi, who is the Senior Manager of Partnerships and Customer Engagement. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very good. It's good to be here.
It's good to be here as well, and I think this is a great opportunity for us to be with Gulf Insider and speak to the business community and try to explain to them what we've been doing in Tamkeen in the past few months to support the business community in Bahrain.
Well, I think there's some good questions and topics and points that we're going to be discussing today, so we'll just get straight into it.
Of course.
Can you tell us a bit about what Tamkeen have been doing to support businesses since COVID hit us?
So let me start with a step prior to that. Tamkeen, in the first place, was established to support businesses in Bahrain to have a better impact on the economic outcome of the country. We're here to support the growth of the business community. We're here to help them to have a bigger contribution in the GDP and in the economy as a whole. So since the start of the COVID-19 spread in Bahrain, what we've been trying to study is how can we support them at this point of time. Tamkeen has always been dynamic. We've always tried to provide the right programs for those businesses to face whatever challenges that they have in the market. So following the royal directives of His Majesty the King, and alongside and as part of the government's economic and financial stimulus package, Tamkeen has launched something called the Business Continuity Support Program. This program was specifically designed for the small and micro businesses to help them face the economic repercussion of the COVID-19, and to be very specific, to help them stay afloat during these tough times. I'm sure everybody that's watching this live stream knows that the entire world was affected somewhat economically with the repercussion of the spread of coronavirus. And everybody knows that it has been very challenging few months for the business community around the world. And each country has been trying to do their best to provide the needed support specifically for the most affected segments of the economy. What we've been trying to do in Tamkeen is to provide as much as possible grants and financial support for small and micro businesses to help them stay afloat during this tough time. So what we've done is we've provided the support in a couple of stages, phase 1 and phase 2, in addition to some other portfolios that we may talk about later on today.
Cool. What's been the main difference between phase 1 and phase 2, and when is phase 2 going to be starting?
Okay, so let me start from the very beginning. So on the 17th of March, the government of Bahrain have announced the stimulus package, and as part of it, Tamkeen support was announced as well. What we've done in that support specifically is we provided grants for small and micro businesses based on the number of employees they have, on the losses and the challenges they faced. We've provided financial support for these companies, something in between 1,050 dinars up to 12,000 dinars. The whole point of the support was to help the entire spectrum of small and micro businesses that are registered in Bahrain. So it's not specific for one of these sectors, it's not specific for one of the companies, but not the other. And the amounts were limited, something again between 1,050 up to 12,000 dinars. That was the first phase. In the second phase, what we've done is we've focused as part again of the national direction and the national efforts to combat or at least to support the business community. We focus on specific sectors, and those 5 sectors are salons and spas, gyms and fitness studios, travel agencies, restaurants and coffee shops, specifically those that were affected by the precautionary measures taken by the government, and the training institutes. Why those sectors? Because those were the most affected by the precautionary measures taken by the government. And we supported those differently this time. The amounts were doubled. The period was extended for 3 more months. The previous support, the first phase of the program was only 3 months. The second one was another 3 months in addition to the first 3 months. And the third thing we've done is we've kind of widened the scope. So the first phase was only for the micro and small businesses. We excluded certain businesses due to different reasons, size of sales, etc. And the second phase, we've kind of widened the spectrum again to help as much as possible companies that were affected in those specific sectors.
Businesses that were rejected in phase one, are they going to be reconsidered for phase two? Or
they were reconsidered actually, and I can't talk about numbers around that. So over 299 companies that were rejected in the first phase were accepted in the second one, and we've given them support on even reimbursement basis that covered even the first phase that they did not get support for.
How challenging has it been to provide support for smaller businesses, certainly ones that are set up from a remote setup, considering the current COVID situation that we're in?
Okay, so that has, I think, two parts to answer this question. First of all, supporting this kind of segment of the economy was a little tough for us for two reasons. One is the size of the companies within this segment is huge. We've received over 26,000 applications in less than a month period of time, which has never happened in the history of Tamkeen. In addition to the fact that these companies had serious issues. Some of them were losing even prior to the pandemic. So trying to understand and empathize with these individual cases was a little challenging for us, again, because of the size of supply that we had of applications in that point of time. That's on one hand. On the other hand, I don't think we faced much challenges with the remote setup of the employees and staff in Tamkeen. Again, because the entire organization was kind of geared toward this program. The government direction that was announced on the 17th of March, which we talked about earlier, was clear. Tamkeen to suspend all of its existing programs and to focus mainly and channel all of its efforts and resources to support the businesses that were affected by the pandemic. And that's what we've been doing. And due to the fact that everybody in Tamkeen has been working day and night since before Ramadan until today, just to make sure that we're trying to extend support to every and each business that needs support from this segment, has helped us to overcome the second challenge. I think one clear message that we have to say here to the entire business community in Bahrain is that Tamkeen and the entire government has been trying to help you. And we will try our best to continue doing that. We've been doing that prior to the pandemic. We've been doing that these days and during the pandemic, and hopefully we'll continue doing that. Again, each depending on the dynamics and the needs of these businesses.
For how long do you think, in your view, do you see the support of Tamkeen going? And how long do you see this going on for? Do you feel we're going to see the end to it soon and the economy's going to pick up with the bridge opening? Or what's your view on how this is going to go on?
So I think there are two questions here. One is how long Tamkeen will continue supporting and where the economy is heading. The second one is almost the $1 billion question, because nobody knows when's that going to end. But what we know is, even if the pandemic ended, I think there are many unknowns. For how long the economy will continue to see the economic repercussion of the pandemic, we don't know. Because, again, the size of the hit that the global economy has faced during this pandemic is huge. That's on one hand. On the other hand, the kind of the behavior of the consumers has changed. Is that change temporarily, or is that something that we'll have to face as a new norm in the economy? That's another thing. How long would the business community and the enterprises in the economy would need actually to cope with the new norm? That's a third question that we might need to consider and think of. Those are all unknowns. What we know in Tamkeen is that we will always be here as much as needed to support the businesses. It's not something, we're not here just for the pandemic and then we stop. We will help the economy as much as possible. These are not the only programs that we have. This is not the only program that we're providing the market.
Which takes me on to my next question. Are there any other further programs, or what other further programs are you offering for small businesses and entrepreneurs?
So in addition to this, what we're trying to do is to provide some sort of innovation support. Again, because we believe that this is a great lesson for the entire economy, for the entire world actually, for the population in the whole world. for us to think differently going forward. So what we've been trying to do is to create another package, another program, a non-financial program this time, to help those businesses to think differently, try to cope with the lessons that we'll learn from the pandemic. So what we're trying to do is to create gatherings and forums, for virtual forums, of course, to think together, to create think tanks and try to understand what's happening, to create mentorship program for small and micro businesses to understand quicker and better what's happening in the market and what they should do to continue operating. Today it's about survival. It's not about expanding or going beyond the current limits,
or even trying to make profit.
Having that said, we've seen businesses that have been doing great. They've seen the challenges, but in every challenge there are opportunities as well. They've been trying to use those challenges for their own benefit. And we've seen good businesses, especially in the IT sector. The ICT sector has been one of the sectors that grow exponentially in the past few months. And I'm sure there are other sectors that have been doing it as well. And we can talk about those specifically. We've been trying to work with international agencies, think tanks in the world, to bring studies and reports for the local community to try to better understand what to do forward. We've been trying to promote certain partnerships locally and internationally. Again, mergers and acquisitions could be one of the solutions for the businesses. To highlight topics like mergers and acquisitions is one of the things we've been trying to do as well.
What lessons has Tamkeen learned? I mean, when this first hit, I think end of March, and when you must have had all the requests coming in, that must have been a real shock and a level of request you've not been used to.
Of course.
What since all this has happened, what lessons has Tamkeen learned and that you've learned moving forward that you will implement as a business and an organization?
I think, of course, these lessons are not very specific to Tamkeen nor to Bahrain as a country. It's a global thing again. Working remotely and building the capability for everybody to be able to work beyond the physical spaces that they have is something that we all learn. Better managing of budgets and support for better impact of the economy is another thing we've been learning as part of the global learning again. So I don't think we're talking about very specific programs. We've been trying actually to be very dynamic, or as dynamic as possible, to cope with the changes in the economy. This is not the first time that the global economy has been hit with economic impacts of multiple, whether those were health-related matters or non-health-related matters, back in 2008 with the mortgages in the United States, and how that became a global crisis. In 2009, we had some sort of local financial matters, again with the mortgages as well, and the investment companies that were created back then. And following that, the post-oil prices shock in 2015 and how that impacted the region and Bahrain as part of that. Those all were like times where Tamkeen had to do drastic changes to the way it supports the businesses. And we always try to cope with that specific period. One thing that we learned out of history, whether that's Tamkeen's history or the mankind history, I think that change is the only constant in life. It's the only constant thing that we have to face. And for us to be able to support the businesses as much as they need, we have to be very quick. We have to accelerate the support that we have, because those businesses need probably hours or days before they have a major crisis and to probably even leave the business if needed due to that. So we have to be as fast, as quick, and as supportive as possible. So all of those things we've been learning over the time, and we had to do it one more time in 2020.
And finally, what is your single most important piece of advice to business owners that are watching this right now to try and stay engaged and focused during this time?
I'll start by saying I can't claim that I know it all, and I'm sure those people that are listening and watching this video today would have probably more experienced than me, but because we were exposed to many different businesses and we've been working with local, regional, and international think tanks, I can say the following confidently. We don't know if the consumer's behavior is going to shift back to how it was prior to the pandemic. So probably it's the time for us all to sit together and try to think how it's going to be afterwards. I think the business continuity plans that people had, but it was not of operational matters as we thought. We need to rethink of that. We don't know when crises are going to hit. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So we have to be as agile as possible to cope with the changes. This is one. And the second thing, we need to think of different ways to do our business in different times. If yesterday you had a restaurant, if prior to the pandemic you had a great restaurant in one of the hotels anywhere in the world, not specifically in Bahrain, you probably would depend a lot on the footfall. But you would know if something like corona virus came into place, nobody will come to your shop, nobody will come to your restaurant. How are you going to survive? We need to diversify further. No matter what your business and how successful it is today, you might face huge challenges in a week's time. And that happened. And we've seen that back in March.
I think what's interesting to see is even, for example, restaurants that have been hit by this. It's been so interesting to see how some restaurants have adapted. Some of them have kind of hid under a rock and they've kind of closed their doors, but some have really adapted. They've become way more present online, collaborating with the online delivery platforms, and they've come up with some great sort of takeaway delivery concepts. So
when we say diversify, does not mean diversify the type of business you have, nor even if you have a restaurant, not even the dishes that you're selling there. You might want to diversify the ways you serve your customers, the channels of delivering your services to them. We need to think of it on a wider spectrum sort of conversation. And I think one more thing, we need to find the right alliances, partnerships, if I may say, going forward. We've seen gyms, for example, and sports clubs that have been trying to some sort of creating joint membership because it's a tough time. And I think we need to be quicker doing that. Doing that 6 months after the pandemic is too late, because probably at this time, a penny would make a difference to your business, and it's probably too late. So we need to be a little bit faster as well. At times, it might seem tough, but remember that the government of Bahrain is here to support you. It's not just us. Tamkeen is part of a national effort to support the business community and everybody in Bahrain, the citizens and the people living here from anywhere in the world. We're here to support them. Reach out to us if you need any sort of support. And if there is anything we can do within the programs that we're providing, we'll always be here.
What's the best way for people or business owners to reach out and connect with you?
Due to the tough times today and the challenges that they face and coming physically to us, I think reaching out to us through the social media, Tamkeen Bahrain, anywhere is definitely an option. They can always email us on support@tamkeen.bh. They can call our call centers at any point of time during the day, and we are here to support them with anything that we can do.
This has been great. Ahmed, thank you. It's been a great conversation, and thank you everybody for watching.
Thank you.